Good morning. I'm Dr. Vinola, and today I'm going to handle your topic on theories of child psychology. Why is child psychology important? Because we have to understand the age appropriate developmental status of a child, the norms of growth for comparative purpose. Is the child having a good growth as per the norms of the particular age? We have to understand the basic psychological processes like the learning process, the education process, the maturation of the mind process. And we should be able to understand the knowledge of the fear and the needs of a child at that particular age. When we are talking about knowledge of fear and needs of a child, every child's cognitive capacity, that is a thinking ability, varies from one age group to another age group. Only when we understand these basic things, we will be able to apply that in our dental situation. So, going on to the definitions, psychology is defined as a science that deals with the human nature, the function, and phenomenon of the soul in man. When we talk about human nature and function and phenomenon, it is the way a person behaves, the way a person functions, the way the person is. It varies from one individual to another individual. That is known as psychology. When we're talking about child psychology, it is a science which deals with the mental power or an interaction between the conscious and the subconscious element in a child. The mental power or an interaction, all of us have a conscious element and a subconscious element. Right this minute, when I'm taking a class, it's a conscious element that wants to listen to the class, but the unconscious element is probably thinking of something else behind. So that is known as the conscious and the subconscious element. So when we have a good interaction with this conscious and the subconscious element and understanding the science behind this is known as the child psychology. So what is the importance of child psychology, or why is it important that we need to know child psychology in order to treat children so that we can understand the child and the behavior problems of a child in a better manner? We can deliver a meaningful and an effective dental service. When the child walks into our dental office, the child will be apprehensive. But when the child leaves the dental office, we need to take care of the child and make sure the child's dental problem is sorted out. Effective communication for us to start talking to the child, for us to build a rapport with the child. Only when this happens, we start to gain the confidence of the child and the parent, and gaining the confidence of the parent is important for us to execute a particular treatment so that the parent will give the consent based on our communicative skills. At the same time, it should be a comfortable environment for us to start working on the patient. And when we have all of this, we will be able to give the child a primary care and a preventive care. And in the end, when the child walks out of the dental office, the child would have had a very meaningful and an effective dental service. So, what are child psychology theories? Child psychology theories are basically divided into two different types. One is known as the psychodynamic theories, and the other is the behavioral theories. In part one today, we will be dealing only with the psychosexual theory of Sigmund Freud and the psychosocial theory of Erik Erikson, and the behavioral theories will be handled as a part two. So, moving on to the first theory of the psychodynamic theory, which is a psychosexual theory by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud gave the personality of a structure or the psychic triad. It is known as a triad because there are three things in it. He believed that this personality had three basic structures. That is the id, which says, I want it right now. The ego will say, I need to do a bit of planning in order to get it. And the superego says, you can't have it. You can see an example where the id says, I want to eat chocolate. The id is nothing but it wants something immediately. Whereas the superego will say, no, you're not supposed to eat the chocolate at this right this moment because you are on a super diet. You want to lose weight. You are on a paleo diet. You want to lose weight. So the superego is acting as a control system. And the ego is able to understand between these two and says, okay, I can eat, but probably it should be only a very small bar that is not affecting. So ego deals between the id and the super ego. So basically, what is the id? It is but the basic structure of a personality. It is a real reservoir of the instincts. It is present at birth, it's impulse ridden. When we say it is present at birth and impulse ridden, what we mean by is when a child is newborn baby is there, the child will cry when the child wants milk, when the child has made urinated or something, the child will again be crying. And the minute you pass on the baby to the mother, immediately the child stops crying. That is basically impulse ridden because immediately the child wants an immediate pleasure. As soon as the baby is crying, if the baby is hungry, you pass on the child and the mother starts feeding the baby. Immediately the child will keep quiet. That is, it strives for immediate pleasure and gratification. This is a basic structure that each and every one of us possess. The basic structure of a personality. It is a reservoir of an instinct because everybody has this at the subconscious level. Because if you remember, we had discussed in the definition that child psychology is a mental power or an interaction between the conscious and the subconscious element in a child. All of us have the subconscious instinct of wanting to do something immediately. For example, you're sitting in the class now, you want to run away from the classroom, but are you able to do it? If you're not able to do it, that is because of the super ego, which we will be discussing. But if in the classroom, immediately you get up and you run away, that means it is impulse ridden. There is immediately when you do it, it's going to give you a pleasure. It's going to give you a gratification. That is why id is known as the pleasure principle. Ego, which is the second part of the triad, is the reality principle. This develops out of the id. When I say it develops out of it, that means after the once a child crosses 6 months and once a child starts understanding, the child starts seeing things around himself, the child starts noticing, the child is basically able to hear a few words what the parents or people at home are able to speak. The child is able to differentiate between the internal and the external world. The child is able to bring a mild correlation between the internal and the external world. And this ego, it keeps developing as the child keeps growing older and older because the child will be able to differentiate between what has to be done and what not to be done and when to do what. That is what we say it is a mediation between the id and the superego. So as the child grows, what happens? The memory of the child, the judgmental ability of the child starts expanding, such as a child who's 2 years old. If you make the child sit in a Zoom class, the child will get up and run away. But you make a 7-year-old child or an 8-year-old child sit in front of a Zoom class. What will the child do? The child is having the video on. The child wants to leave. But since it is a class that is being taken, the child will be sitting in the post and listening to the class that is taken. So this is concerned with memory and judgment. The child is able to do that because the memory and judgment is expanding as the age is growing more and more. So whatever the child wants to do on an id, that is on an impulsive process, the child is able to delay that process, modify it, and control his impulses because reality is very important here because things happen in ego on a reality principle. That is why ego is known as the reality principle. Now, moving on to the next one, which is known as the super ego. Super ego deals with the moral values and principles. It is a prohibition which is learned from the environment. That is, we are able to differentiate between the right and the wrong. I'm giving you an example here. Now, the COVID situation, and all around, there is going to be a lot of restrictions. We are not supposed to move out of the house. If you move out of the house, you're supposed to wear a mask. You have to maintain the social distance and unnecessarily do not go to anybody's house or attend any functions. So these are certain rules that have been passed on by the government for us to follow. At this particular point of time, when we decide, no matter what the government says, I'm not going to follow the social distancing. I'm going to do what I want. I will go and visit my relatives. I will visit my friends. I will hang out with them. When you do all this and you're not going to wear a mask, what's going to happen? That is because of your id, because it is impulse ridden. The feeling that you want to go out, it is gives you immediate satisfaction. But what happens? Although the superego is telling you you're not supposed to go out because the cases are more, and if because in the lockdown, if you venture out, it is not good for you. when the government is giving these rules, and then your ego tells you, oh, it's better I don't go. I want to meet my friend, let me just give a call and let me speak, or I have a video chat option, I can chat with them or I can see them over the video chat. So this is something to do with the ego, because ego is to do with the reality principle. The super ego helps you to differentiate between the right and the wrong, and when the ego is able to understand that process and then control that process, that is a reality which is there. So super ego acts as a sensor of acceptability of thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And these regulations are imposed to the child by the parents, the society, the culture. You have certain ethics, you have certain morals. Do not do this, don't do that. There are certain small rules and regulations. For example, when the child goes to the school, the class teacher tells, sit straight. You have to have your pencil only. You're not supposed to write with a pen. You have to sit only in the first row, and you have to sit in the fourth chair on the right side. So when these are rules which are given and when child is able to follow, that is because of the mediation that is done by the ego. So when we don't follow this and then you're rebuked or you are yelled at for this, what happens is you have the feeling of shame and guilt. You know you shouldn't have done it, but it produces the feeling of shame and guilt. So again, going back to the same COVID example, you're not wearing your mask, you're going out in the two-wheeler, or you're going out you're hanging out with your friends in a car, and then the traffic police, they stop you somewhere, and they're asking you why is your mask and why your mask is not on, and at the same time they're asking you why four of you are traveling together in a car when you're not supposed to go. So they are the super ego at that particular moment. So since you have done something wrong, it produces a feeling of shame and guilt. So that is known as the super ego. So the basic triad is the id, ego, and the super ego. So to repeat again, id is the pleasure principle, ego is the reality principle, and super ego, to tell in our own words, it is to do with the moral values and the principles. So that is the governing principle. So moving on to the stages of development, all the stages of development are based on the id, ego, and the super ego. So there are 5 stages of development, and we will be handling each stage one by one. Going to the oral stage, which is the erogenous zone, which is in focus, which is going to be the mouth. This oral stage is between 0 to 1.5 years. So erogenous zone and focus is whatever the child wants to communicate with the outside world. It is always through the mouth. For example, the child wants to eat. That is through the mouth. The child wants attention. That is through the mouth. The child wants to communicate anything. It is through a cry, which is again through the mouth. So any activity, since the child's sensory motor is not developed so well, anything the child wants to communicate, it's only through the mouth. That is why it is known as the erogenous zone in function, because that is the zone which gives the maximum amount of pleasure to the child, which is the mouth, which is the oral zone. So the gratifying activities of this particular stage is nursing, eating, as well as mouth movements, which give for sucking, biting, and swallowing. And when you take the child for nursing to the mother, the very fact that the child is taken immediately to the mother makes the child stop crying. That is a gratifying activity. This is what we related earlier known as the id. And at this particular moment, when the child is given to the mother, the child starts interacting with the environment, and the environment at this time is the first source is the mother. If the mother is not there, the caretaker. So the mother's breast for the child, it's not only as a source of food, but it also represents her love for the child. And the child's personality is controlled in this particular environment only by the id principles. And when this stage is not resolved properly, there are symptoms of fixation. Because of that, there are certain habits which the child will develop as the child goes older into the adolescent period and even into adulthood, which can remain lifelong. Things such as smoking, nail biting, drinking, and being sarcastic. So this is the oral stage. So moving on to the next stage, which is the anal stage. Anal stage is the erogenous zone that is in focus in this particular stage is the anus. What happens in this particular stage is the child, because between the age of 1.5 to 3 years of the anal stage, the child is able to control his bowel movements. The child is able to control the bowel movement for the reason that there is a maturation of the neuromuscular control. That is the thing which is happening by physiology itself. The very fact that the child is able to pass urine when he wants to, control the urine when he doesn't want to, gives the child a sense of autonomy, gives the child a sense of independence. So this is the interaction that the child starts practicing with the environment. This interaction is because of the toilet training. When you can take the child is able to express saying that he wants to use the toilet. And sometimes when you force the child to do it, he may not do it. And when you're too lenient with the child, also he may not do it. But when the child is practicing the bowel movements and toilet training, he practices this particular one without any kind of a shame or without any kind of a guilt because of the personal autonomy. Autonomy is nothing but the ability or the freedom to exercise what is possible by me at this particular point of time. So this is the personal autonomy. And the fixations of this particular stage, we have two kinds of fixations. One, we call it as the anal expulsive personality. The other is the anal retentive personality. Why is the expulsive personality is when the parents become too lenient and they fail to exercise control. See, the child during this period of 1.5 to 3 years, the child should be given toilet training and the parent should be following up on how the child is doing the toilet training by giving the child certain amount of freedom, controlling the child when the child has to be controlled. That is like being soft and gentle, but at the same time being a little firm in order to bring a certain amount of discipline to the child. At this stage, when the parents are too lenient and they fail to exercise the control, what happens is the child becomes in future very sloppy, reckless, a very disorganized child, and at the same time, the child can show a defiant attitude. In the other extreme case, where there is a parent who shows excessive control, for example, when the parent, anytime the child is by mistake, the child is passed urine and he's not able to control at the age of 1.5, he's not able to control the urine, the parent rebukes him. What happens is the child will start experiencing anxiety. So once he starts experiencing this anxiety, he is not able to, he starts to hold the bowel movements. What will happen is he will not do it when the parent tells, he will only do it when the parent is not around. So these kind of children in future, they will be acting like extremely clean, orderly. They cannot tolerate anybody who is not clean. Probably they can be showing, for example, symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to cleanliness. So these are the two kinds of fixations that is possible in the anal stage. That is the anal expulsive personality and the other is the anal retentive personality. Moving on to the next stage, which is the phallic stage. Phallic stage is between the age group of 3 and 5 years. So the erogenous zone in focus here has again moved to the genital area. We have seen that in the oral stage, it is the mouth. And in the anal stage, it is the anal area. And now in the phallic stage, it is the genitals. So what happens between the age of 3 and 5 years? This is the stage when the child starts attending the preschool. The child starts to understand which gender the child belongs to, whether the child is a female or whether the child is a male. The child starts understanding, yes, I am a girl, or the boy starts understanding, yes, I am a boy. And the gratifying activity of this particular stage is genital fondling. They want to explore the private organ that the child is having. So this gives them a sense of satisfaction. So the interaction with the environment in this is very important for us to understand because there are two complexes which arise. The child who is a male child will start having more affection towards the mother and a girl child will start having more affection towards the father. So this is identified by two complexes. One is known as the Oedipus complex and the other is known as the Electra complex. Oedipus complexes when these are terminologies that were used in Greek mythology. Oedipus and Electra, they are Greek mythological characters. So in Oedipus complex, the boy kills the father in order to win the sexual affection of the mother. That is an Oedipus complex. The excessive love that the boy has for the mother is denoted by Oedipus complex. Whereas Electra complex is in Greek mythology, the girl with the help of her brother killed her mother in order to gain the affection of her father. So if you understand this, the overt affection that the child of the child has for the opposite gender parent becomes very prominent in the phallic stage. But in spite of this, although the child probably is not having too much of an affection for the parent of the same gender, the child starts identifying himself or herself with the parent of the same sex. For example, a girl child would love to wear a sari, keep a bindi like the mother, try to dress up like the mother. Whereas a boy would love to probably draw a mustache or probably try to shave, just like how his dad would probably do. They start identifying with the parent of the same sex. They start imitating the parent of the same sex also. And another two things which are very important in the phallic stage. One is known as the castration anxiety, and the other is the penis envy. Castration anxiety occurs when the child, especially the girl child, thinks that her penis has been cut off by the mother. So that is, sorry, cast, castration anxiety, penis, that is penis envy. Sorry, when the girl child thinks that her penis has been cut off and she starts imagine, she sees that of her brothers or that of her fathers. That is known as the penis envy. Whereas for the boys, it is the castration anxiety. So the symptoms of fixation that happens in this particular stage for the men, it is about anxiety and guilt feelings about sex, the fear of castration, and narcissistic personality. Anxiety and guilt feelings happen, and for the men this resolves over a period of time. When we talk about castration, it is to do with the Oedipus complex, the anxiety which arises. And then narcissistic is loving oneself and loving the look of oneself too much, that is a narcissist personality. Whereas for the girls or for the women, it is a sense of envy, what we saw as a penis envy, and there is a sense of inferiority which sets in at this stage. And for the women, this sense of envy and inferiority does not completely resolve, and there is a small amount which is always there throughout the life of a girl child. So the important interaction of the phallic stage with the environment is of that of Oedipus complex, Electra complex, castration anxiety, penis envy. So moving on to the next stage, which is known as the latency stage. This occurs between 5 and 11 years of age. And in this particular stage, there is no erogenous zone, there is no fixations also. Whatever has not occurred before or any symptoms of fixation that have been resolved before can automatically change, and this is a stage where things get modified for the child. So the interaction with the environment for the child is much more in the stage, because the child starts focusing himself or herself to the social environment, the place that we belong to. The child starts interacting at school. The child starts having a lot of friends. The child starts engaging in sport activities. So what happens when the child is meeting a lot of people and the child has many interactions? The child starts developing new skills, and the child starts developing more and more knowledge. When the child develops more knowledge, what happens? There is something which is known as maturation of ego takes place. Ego, what we had discussed earlier, is a reality principle. So here again, to tell the same thing, ego is mediated between it and the superego, and the child in this stage is able to differentiate between the right and the wrong, and maturation of the ego takes place. So the child is able to have a greater degree of control over his impulses, such as for the same example that I gave you earlier, a 3-year-old child can probably run out of the classroom. but a 7-year-old child will not run out of the classroom. A 7-year-old child is feeling hungry. He wants to immediately open his lunchbox and start eating, but he will not probably do it. He will wait for the break time to be announced to open his snack box and have a snack. So the child starts showing a greater degree of control over the instinct impulses, that is over the id. That is why there is a maturation of ego takes place, and the super ego plays an important role because the child is able to internalize the social values or the cultural values or the home values that are set or defined by the society. The child is able to understand this. In this particular stage, the play of the child is generally confined to that of the same gender. The girls like to preferably play all games related to what the girl child like to play. For example, with the utensils, probably dress up like the mother, and probably there is a lady teacher in school whom they like, they would probably like to imitate them, things like that. Boys would love to play probably sports, and they would like to drive the car, they would like to drive the bike, and their play is confined to that also. So the play is generally confined to the same gender in this particular stage. So moving on to the fifth stage, which is known as the genital stage, which is from puberty onwards. So this is after the stage of 11 or 12. So again here, the erogenous zone and focus becomes the genitals. So what happens here, the child starts developing heterosexual relationships, the gratifying activity. What we saw in the previous stage, which is the fourth stage, latency stage, the child's play is generally confined to that of the same gender. Whereas in this stage, the child starts developing relationships with people of the opposite gender. So there is a renewed sexual desire because the child attains puberty with the secondary sexual characteristics that are developing. The child will be in pursuit, the child can pursue certain relationships, and the stage is also having, as you all know, puberty phase. There is a lot of hormonal secretions, and at some children will have a lot of physical manipulation of the genital area. And in this stage, mature heterosexual relationships emerge. The friendships between boys and girls, especially if you're going to be studying in a co-education school, you will know what this is. You will start having friends of the opposite gender. So in this stage, when these relationships emerge, this sets the basis for the child to walk into the adulthood. So the child is able to have the acceptance of the adult role. The child functions with the social expectations and with the cultural values. And there are no symptoms of fixation in this particular stage because most of the fixations would have resolved in the fourth stage, which is the latency stage. So with this, we finish the psychosexual or the psychoanalytical theory of Sigmund Freud, which was given in 1905. So to recap on this particular topic, the three basic structures of a personality is the id, which says I want it now, which is the pleasure principle. Ego, I want it, but I need to take some time to get it. That is ego, which is the reality principle. And the third is the superego, which is the governing principle, which says it is based on the values that is imposed by the society. So based on this, there are 5 stages of development. The first stage is the oral stage, where the erogenous zone in focus is the mouth, and this stage is between 0 to 1.5 years. The second stage is the anal stage, where the erogenous zone in focus is the anal areas. And then the third stage, which is the phallic stage, which is between 3 and 5 years, where the erogenous zone in focus is again the genital area. The fourth stage, which is a latency stage, which is between 5 and 11 years of age, there is no erogenous zone in focus, and in this particular stage, there is no symptom of fixation also. And then the last or the genital stage, which is puberty onwards, the erogenous zone in focus is the genitals. So every stage, there is an interaction with the environment, and this interaction will help the child to move ahead to the next phase or the next stage. So with this, we finish the psychoanalytical or the psychosexual theory of Sigmund Freud. So moving on to the next theory, which is the psychosocial theory, which is given by Erik Erikson in the year 1963. So Erik Erikson's theory, there are basically, he has divided life itself into 8 stages. There are 8 stages in this theory. So the first 5 from birth to adolescence is basically is the first 5, and the stages 6 to 8 are that of young adult, adult, and late adult. So in this stage, what basically Erickson tried to tell is the child will start responding to his basic needs, or he will start doing the task for a particular age depending on the society that we are living in. So he starts behaving or he starts interacting with the environment based on the society that we belong to. So the child's healthy growth and survival in culture. So every stage in this particular theory is characterized by psychological crisis or a social crisis that needs to be resolved. And there is a positive and a negative outcome in each stage. So moving on to the first stage, which is the basic trust versus mistrust, which is between birth to 18 months. So the first stage of development is that of hope. The description of this is the child is completely dependent on the caregiver or the mother or the father for food, warmth, affection. So in this particular stage, the child develops a trusting relationship with a caregiver. And this trusting relationship with the caregiver sets the hope for the child. So the positive outcome of this particular stage is the child will develop trust, security, and the child has a basic optimism towards life. And the negative outcome of this particular phase is the child becomes insecure because there is only mistrust that has been formed. So insecure, and the child is mistrustful. And in the dental application for this particular stages, when the child walks into the dental office, it is very essential for the parent to hold the child or and the child to be seated with the parent. So the parental presence is very important in the operatory in this particular stage. So moving on to the second stage, which is autonomy versus shame and doubt. So in this, as we discussed earlier, this is something similar to that of the anal stage of the child, where the child learns toilet training. The child is able to walk and talk. And since the child is able to control his bowel movements, what happens is the positive outcome of this is the child starts becoming more sure of himself. He's happy with his newfound control because he's not shameful about it. Because as we discussed earlier, in the anal stage, he starts practicing this. That is his interaction with the environment that we discussed earlier. He starts practicing his toilet training without any shame and guilt. That is a positive outcome of this. But the negative outcome, if the parent is overprotective, what happens? The child will become very unsure of himself and he starts doubting his capabilities. And he doubting as in he starts having an excessive doubt on his capabilities. Every action or every movement of the child starts calibrating whether the child is right or wrong. So that is a negative outcome. And in this stage also, the presence of parents in the operatory for a dental treatment is very essential. So the development that happens in this particular stage is will that happens. In the first one that we saw, that was hope, whereas the second stage of development, it is a will that happens. So moving on to the third one, that is initiative versus guilt. This is between 4 and 5 years of age. So what happens between 4 and 5 years of age? The child walks around more, the child is running around, the child starts initiating and participating in motor activities, the child starts singing, the child starts driving the three-wheeler at home, the child tries cycling, the child is able to climb. So you can probably see children climbing the cupboards, pulling down clothes, hiding here. They like playing a lot. So this phase is defined by more motor skills of the child. And the child starts participating and shows a lot of eagerness and enthusiasm to take part in the motor activities. The child likes a lot of adventure and the child likes to take on responsibility at this particular phase. The negative outcome of this particular stage is the child thinks he's wrong to be independent because the parent keeps giving a lot of unwanted control to the child. But if the parent is going to be very encouraging but still consistent in discipline, that's going to be a positive outcome. So the dental application in this phase is first appointment, the presence of parents, and The child becomes more independent. The child likes to explore the dental setup. Probably the child wants to know what the handpiece is, what the mouth mirror is, what the probe is. So the child likes to explore the dental setup. So moving on to the fourth phase, which is industry versus inferiority. So this fourth stage of development, the child's skill further increases. The child becomes more industrious. The child becomes more studious. In this particular phase, the child understands that he or she is better at a particular job than something else. So fear in this stage is a super ego anxiety because the child wants to be the best. The child thinks at this phase that the child wants to be his best. That is his own internal standards the child has set. And when the child is not able to meet that, then the child becomes quite unsure of himself. The child starts becoming inferior. So that is why in this particular phase, the a sense that I'm capable of, the positive outcome should be encouraged. There should be more of reinforcement when the child is able to do things. Whereas when the child does a particular activity, the child is ridiculed at school or the friends are making fun of the child at school. What happens is it leads to incompetence or inferiority. A 6-year-old child can draw a butterfly the only the way he can draw. Probably he can refine his technique, but saying no, the butterfly, the shading is not proper, and expecting a professionalism in a 6-year-old child, if that's going to happen, that leads to a negative outcome. In this stage, the child gets that competence. Yes, I'm capable of. I want to do it. That is what we call as industriousness. So the dental part in this particular phase, when the child walks into our dental office, we can give proper behavior guidance to the child. We can reinforce the child positively. So moving on to the next phase, which is the fifth stage of development, identity versus role confusion, which is between 11 and 18 years of age. This is the fifth stage of development, which is fidelity. In this particular stage, every child, once the child becomes a teenager, they start developing their own personal identity. This is what I am. This is what I would like to be. This is what I want to do. I do not want to do this. It gets very defined as in this particular stage because they have a sense of belonging to a larger group. They start having friends who start thinking along the same lines. And at the same time, they realize that existence without family is also possible. That is, they can be away from family, but at the same time, they are able to survive. So this phase happens in identity, and career possibilities get defined at this stage. I want to do this particular career. I'm interested in this particular field. I would like to be a pilot. I would like to be a dentist. I would like to be an astronaut, or I would like to be a teacher. I would like to be a nurse. Anything, the career possibilities get defined at this stage, and their peer group, they become the role models. The positive outcome of this is the strong identity because this is preparing the child for the future. But the negative outcome of this is the child starts having a confusion and low self-esteem. When the child is not able to express himself or herself, the child gets confused and there is a low self-esteem. But in this particular phase, the child is very conscious about the appearance and the approval of the peer group, which is very important to the child. So these are the 5 phases which are present right from birth up to adolescence. To summarize the first 5 phases that we have seen, the first one is basic trust versus mistrust. The second one is autonomy versus shame and doubt. The third is identity versus, the third one is initiative versus guilt. The fourth one is industry versus inferiority, and the fifth is identity versus role confusion. This is between 11 and 18 years. So moving on to the next three, which talks about early adulthood, young adult and adulthood and late adulthood. So this is intimacy versus isolation, which is between 19 and 25 years, where the person forms a strong and relationships and they are willing to compromise in order to maintain their relationships. So the positive outcome is close relationships and attainment of career goals. The negative outcome of this is a set of attitude with strong prejudice. And at the same time, the dental application, the patients usually walk into the dental office by themselves and their external appearance becomes very important. And in this phase, because of their set of attitude or if they have a strong prejudice, they may not be making many relationships, and that will again give them a lot of isolation. So the important thing in this particular phase is strong personal relationships, which is love. So moving on to the next one, which is generativity versus stagnation. Again, you have to build up your career, raise your family, which is the positive outcome, and the negative outcome is they remain self-centered. The last phase is ego, integrity versus despair. Whether they have been satisfied with their life over the past few years they have lived, whether they are satisfied or disappointed. The positive will be integrity will be achieved, and the negative will be there will be disgust and there will be unhappiness, and they will start thinking, will they be able to do better before they die? So with this, we finish the first two theories, and the remaining theories will be completed in the next part. Thank you.